Did you know not all bloating is the same? And that's exactly why generic advice keeps failing. Bloating right after a meal means something completely different than bloating that creeps up by 3 p.m. Upper belly bloat points somewhere different than lower belly bloat. Today, I'm going to walk you through the patterns that I look for with every client so that you can stop guessing and start recognizing what your body is actually telling you. First, we're going to talk about timing and why timing matters. Depending on when you notice the bloating in regard to how often you had last eaten, helps give you signs that can point to what's actually going on in your body. For example, if you have bloating within 30 minutes of finishing your meal, that points to a digestive enzyme insufficiency or eating too fast or eating while you're under stress. The body hasn't had time to break down that food before it's already moving further into the digestive tract. And without those stomach acids or enzymes breaking it down into the right size molecules to be able to transport through your body, the food ends up being in bigger pieces and it starts to ferment instead of breaking down cleanly. Some common triggers for this are eating on the go, eating while scrolling on your phone or working, swallowing meals quick under 10 minutes, drinking large amounts of water with your meals. A lot of water when you're eating actually dilutes your digestive enzymes and makes it harder for those enzymes to break down that food. So, for example, if you're a busy mom, especially of toddlers, and you throw food on the table for your kids and you try to wolf down food at the island while standing up real quick before they get done, this is a sign that you're likely going to get some bloating within 30 minutes. So this is where you're going to want to sit down, try to take a couple deep breaths, and chew your food slowly. I know it's easier said than done, but it is very important for your body. When you experience this type of bloating, a common homeopathic remedy that might be helpful is Nux vomica. Nux vomica is a remedy that is a classic match for when you're eating too fast, you're eating under stress, you're living an overworked, sedentary lifestyle where you're super stressed, high strung, going from thing to thing, running kids from here to there. Nux vomica can be a really helpful tool in your tool belt. Another option is lycopodium, and that is for when you're feeling full and distended even after a small amount of food. One thing I do want to note about homeopathic remedies is they work by matching the whole symptom picture, not just one symptom in isolation. So when I list these remedies, you're going to want to go to a resource like homeopathyforwomen.com or a Materia Medica and look up the remedy, and all of symptoms or a larger portion of your symptoms match that remedy, because a lot of times homeopathy works more on the constitution of the person. So what your lifestyle's like, what your personality's like, some of the other symptoms in your body, not just when you have this, you take this. It's a little more complicated than that. So I do want to remind you that these are starting points for looking into ways to help take back control of your own healing journey, but they're not a prescription or a easy one-for-one remedy. So you're going to want to work with a qualified naturopath or a practitioner to find an exact match, especially when you're dealing with something chronic. Also, I would like to remind you that I am not your natural health professional, so you want to work with somebody who knows you and your history and your symptoms specifically. This is more for education purposes. Okay, now, next option is when you start to experience bloating 1 to 3 hours after eating. That is going to point more toward a food fermentation in the small intestine or a gut bacteria imbalance. That's food sitting too long or a sensitivity to a food still being processed. This one is the bloat that hits mid-morning or mid-afternoon sometimes it's blamed for just feeling off rather than connected back to breakfast or lunch. I do notice a lot of times when it is a food sensitivity, it shows up almost exactly at that 3-hour marker for a lot of people. Undiagnosed food sensitivities, their symptoms start to show up right about that 3-hour mark. Some people can even time it to the minute. And so you want to watch out for that 1 to 3 hour time frame, especially that 3-hour mark. And if you are feeling pain or bloating at that point in time, you want to make sure that you're checking back to a food sensitivity. Those types of food sensitivities are harder to show up on standard testing, so you want to make sure that you're paying attention to your body and using your body as a cue. So one homeopathic remedy to mention here is China. It is for gas that fills the whole abdomen. It gives a sense of fullness as if it's packed, slow, weak digestion, and dissension that's not relieved by any kind of gas. A lot of clients tell me I look like I'm 6 months pregnant when they're experiencing that type of bloating. And so a good remedy for that, check again the other resources to make sure you fit the other symptoms and the whole profile, but China tends to be a really helpful one in that situation. Another option on timing is bloating that builds across the day without a common meal trigger. So this tends to be a sign of slow motility. So that means food's moving too slowly through the gut, or it could be chronic low-grade inflammation. And this is the bloat that's there by 3 p.m. no matter what you do. This type of bloating tends to frustrate people the most because there doesn't seem to be an obvious culprit to blame. It doesn't seem to matter what you eat, whether you're eating a super clean, super restricted diet, or if you're eating whatever you want. And it makes it feel random when there's actually a system level pattern. It's just not a single meal pattern. So the homeopathic remedy that you want to look into for this one is called lycopodium. Symptoms are classically worse in the late afternoon, early evening, especially between 4 and 8 p.m., and they're often paired with sugar cravings and an energy slump around the same time. Another option is Illumina for the slower motility and constipation version of this pattern. Next, I want to go into location. Location within the belly actually matters quite a bit. So sometimes we're going to get upper belly bloat. That's going to be really high in the belly, right under the rib cage. That's often tied to low stomach acid or enzyme insufficiency. This is one of the areas that's easiest to help because there's plenty of good enzymes that you can supplement to help with this. But what the thing is the food's not actually being broken down all the way at the very beginning of digestion. And so we need our stomach acid to break the food down into the small enough molecules for our body to absorb it and know what it is. And if the food doesn't break down into the right size molecule, your body looks at it as a foreign invader, or it has to tax other organs to work harder to create more enzymes to break down that food to get it to what you need it to be. This is often the case that I see when I have clients who are eating a super healthy diet and they're still not getting the nutrition they need. And a lot of that is because their food's not being broken down enough and it's just passing through, so their body can't absorb any of the nutrients from it. Other times, I have a lot of clients whose food's not breaking down enough, and then their vitamins and supplements can't get where it needs to go in their body because they're not getting the proper molecules to transport those vitamins and minerals. So as we age, along with stress and certain medications, our stomach acid actually ends up declining. And when our stomach acid declines, we then can't break down our food enough. And a lot of times, this ends up causing those feelings of indigestion. And people think that instead of their stomach not having enough acid, they think it's producing too much acid. So they're using antacids to try to prevent that indigestion. And it's actually the wrong remedy for the problem that's happening. So it's actually dramatically bigger issue than a lot of people realize, and one of my favorite places to start with somebody, because we can take care of supplementing the right digestive enzyme, and it covers so many problems that I see as people come into my clinic. A good homeopathic remedy to mention here is carbo-veg. This one classically affects the upper abdomen specifically, especially with sluggish digestion. It comes with a tense sense of about to burst fullness relieved by belching, and ties in nicely with the antacid misconception. And so this is where it's got the low stomach acid pattern, not actually the high acid pattern. So carbo-veg is a good one for a lot of these types of situations. And like I said, digestive enzymes help too. If you join my cohort, Heal Your Gut, Thrive in Grace, we go really deep into digestive enzymes and which ones specifically help your body the most. Another option is the lower belly bloat. That one is tied to the microbiome. So this is going to be your bacterial imbalance, fermentation, or motility issues further down the digestive tract. This bloat tends to make pants feel tighter by evening and is most associated with gas and visible distension. So here, FODMAPs and fiber tend to be foods that cause this problem the most. Not all fiber behaves the same way for every gut. And I know we're always told to eat more fiber, but some fibers are harder to break down than others. And if we have this kind of bloat, those fibers are going to ferment more than they should, and they're going to cause that bloating. So this is often a missing piece for women who eat super healthy and still deal with this lower belly bloat. This can be helped by a number of things. If you eat a low FODMAP diet, that can help. You don't want to live on a restrictive diet forever, so you want to actually eliminate the things that are causing that sensitivity, heal that gut lining, and then reintroduce those foods. So I have a clear plan with my clients in place where we eliminate the food for a certain time while we're working on taking some herbals to clean up whatever's causing that fermentation in the gut and get things moving and rebuild that gut lining so that we can reintroduce the foods. A good homeopathic remedy to mention here is lycopodium. This is classic for that type of issue. It's that lower abdominal, late day bloating kind of remedy. Like I said before, usually between 4 and 8 p.m. is the classic lycopodium sign. Again, it's usually that lower abdomen. And so this one is showing both time and location are pointing to the same remedy from two different angles. That is usually a clue that's a good remedy for you. When you're starting with some of these remedies, you want to start low and slowly build your way up as far as strength goes. If you get bloating both in the upper and lower abdomen at the same time, or bloat that moves location throughout the day, that's usually pointing more toward a gut lining or whole system issue rather than one isolated problem. This is the pattern that most often shows up in someone who's been dealing with digestive issues for years, not just weeks. This is the situation that needs more of a whole gut healing approach and isn't going to be solved with just a food elimination or one supplement here. This is going to actually take a framework to work through and make sure that we heal that from the inside out in all areas and all roots at the same time. A good remedy as far as homeopathy goes here is to start with the China. This one is, again, that entire abdomen feeling distended rather than a localized one spot, which also fits that whole system pattern and reinforces that whole gut healing, heal from the root type of process. Next, we're going to talk about what happens when bloating comes with company. So when we get bloating and we get super fatigued or super tired, that's usually that our nutrient absorption is likely compromised. your gut's not pulling what it needs from the food, so your body runs really low even when you're eating enough. So a damaged or inflamed gut lining can't absorb nutrients efficiently. So even if you're eating a nutrient-dense diet, you can actually still be malnourished. And I've seen this oftentimes. People come to me and they're like, but I eat so well. How can I be malnourished? But it's just because their gut lining is inflamed and damaged and they're not absorbing what they need to absorb through that gut. And this is often a time where people start to realize that their digestion issue or their fatigue issue are not separate things. They're actually related. A homeopathic remedy of this, again, is China. So this one is often recommended for people who have exhaustion and are like debilitatedly exhausted, or when the body is depleted of all fluids or nutrients. It fits that whole you're eating enough but still deficient situation. What about if you feel bloated and you get anxiety or racing thoughts around the same time? The gut-brain connection is through your vagus nerve, and that nerve goes from your brain down into your gut, and it has branches into your heart and your lungs as well. It is the parasympathetic highway, and this is the part of your body that just runs on autopilot. You don't have to think about it, but it keeps your body running and alive. And that highway often runs gut to brain more so than brain to gut. And so a lot of times when we experience bloating along with anxiety or racing thoughts, our cortisol is slowing down our digestion, and then our digestive distress signals back up to the brain through that vagus nerve. So it becomes this loop, and it's not two separate problems. If you want to explain it this way, the gut and brain are on the same phone line. When one is stressed, the other one gets the message immediately. And that gut is signaling to the brain, and the brain is signaling to the gut. So when your gut is stressed, it creates signals in your brain for the rest of your body to be stressed, and vice versa. So this is a very important system to monitor and make sure that we're taking care of, because if we're not taking care of our stress levels, all that digestion's not really happening anyway. A good homeopathic remedy to mention at this point is Argentum nitricum, which is well known for anxiety paired with digestive upset. It's that nervous stomach before a big event remedy. Another option is Ignatia if the anxiety has emotional or grief component, or the symptoms seem to be paradoxical, opposite of each other, then Ignatia might be the remedy for you. But a lot of time that Argentum nitricum is the one to do. Another option is bloat that shows up only during high stress weeks. So for example, if you're in school and it's finals week, or you have a super big week at work with a lot of presentations, or you have a really hard stressful time with your spouse or travel, things like that. When it's a real high stress week and you get bloated only during stress, this shows that stress digestion link is directly correlated, which is useful information. It's not a coincidence. It shows you that you can notice the pattern yourself and understand why it happens. A remedy here for this situation is often nux vomica. It fits the overworked, irritable, running on caffeine and willpower version of stress. Another option is Kali phosphoricum. This is for the more depleted, nervous, exhausted version instead of the hyped up, irritable version. So depending on what your personality style is, those two are a little bit opposite of each other as far as which one you would do when it's directly related with stress and digestive issues. The last pairing that I'm going to talk about right now is bloat alongside skin issues, mood shifts, or sleep disruption. So all of these can have the same root. They're all related to gut inflammation and microbiome imbalance. It shows up oftentimes in more than just the stomach. Your body has multiple excretory systems, and if your gut is slow or blocked, it's going to find another way to get things out of your body, which is often through the skin, through maybe some coughing, through mood shifts, sleep disruption, all of these sort of things. A homeopathic remedy to mention in this situation is sulfur. Sulfur is classically associated with skin issues alongside digestive complaints. Common constitutional remedy for people when several systems are involved at once. So I don't want to go into it too deeply, but sulfur is a really good one when you have lots of different body systems having challenges alongside digestive complaints. So I want you to notice that none of these patterns are about whether you ate a salad or a cookie last. They're about how your body's processing what you ate, how fast, and what's happening underneath the surface. And that's why so many women do everything right with food and still feel exactly the same or worse. And so what I want you to do with this information is start with a simple pattern log. This week, when you experience bloating, if you do, take note of what it's paired with, when it is, what time it happened, what you ate last, how long ago it was. Is it upper abdomen, lower abdomen? Is it full abdomen? Just take note of all the different pieces to the puzzle that we discussed right now and start paying attention. The single piece of awareness often reveals more than any other elimination diet can help reveal. And once you know your pattern, you actually know where to start, which is a huge piece of the puzzle that might be missing. So if you want to stop guessing and start with something simple that is food-based, I built a 5-day gut reset for just $7. You have 5 food swaps one day and the why behind each one, so you're not left wondering why I chose that. I'll have the link in the comments below. And if you're not sure which root is driving your symptoms in the first place, take my free quiz. The link's there too. Even if you think it might be stress related or food related or lifestyle related, just take the quiz. And like I said, it's free. The link will be in the comments below. If this kind of breakdown is helpful and you want to see more of this, make sure you hit subscribe so that you can follow along. I plan on going deeper into all health topics. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.